Zoo Tales. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Mark. Thank you to everyone for listening to another episode of Zoo Tales. We've got a packed house today. I always love these episodes when we've got it's like a party today.
It is.
Honestly, we've got treats, we have merchandise brought to us. Like, we're being spoiled today. This is going to be something all of our future guests have to live up to. But we've got a full house, like I mentioned. We're here today to talk about a really unique and cool collaboration of the zoo and Miami University and this program that has been built out of this collaboration. But just to introduce all of our guests, we're being joined by Emma Cotter and Mark Muthersbaugh, who are both graduates of this master's program that our partnership has created. We're also being joined by Cassie Lyon, who is the graduate program manager at the Cincinnati Zoo, and as well as Kevin Madison. And Kevin is the associate director of Project Dragonfly, who works mostly with Miami University. So everyone, thanks so much for joining us. I know everyone's really busy. Schedules are crazy, especially this time of year. So thanks so much for taking your time to join us.
Totally.
Yeah, thank you guys for being here. And shout out. That was a lot of people to introduce.
Yeah. I don't only want to toot my own horn, but first time I didn't even mess up today.
A lot of people. I love it. We want to talk about the AIP program, or the Advanced Inquiry Program. That is a partnership between the Cincinnati Zoo and Miami University, like Mark mentioned. So, I don't know, Kevin, do you want to kind of give us the background on this collaboration and the Project Dragonfly program in general?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks so much. Yeah. So Project Dragonfly, what is it? It's not specifically and literally about dragonflies, although it could be. If that's
That'd be
what
cool
you want
if
to
it
study.
was.
Yeah. It's totally fine. But it's kind of just a name that we came up with. And we actually had a magazine for children. That's how it all started back in the late 1990s, early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of like a Ranger Rick, but it was about showcasing children and their investigations on par with other research scientists. So like Jane Goodall was one of our adult research scientists, and then we had children who were doing things that were similar. And so the idea was like, you could go through your whole schooling never seeing another, like an actual kid your age doing a scientific investigation. So that was the point of that very unique nationally syndicated magazine. And then from there we sort of transitioned into graduate programs, and with the zoos and with Cincinnati Zoo, it really was about where else is a great place to have your graduate studies than if at a zoo, if you're interested in conservation education. So it'd be, Miami has a gorgeous campus, it's lovely classrooms and everything, but if you want to study animals and wildlife, this is the place for it.
That's wonderful. Do you know who first started it with the zoo, or like how that became? I don't know if that's a tough question if you weren't part of it back then.
Yeah, so there is an origin story. So there was Professor Chris Myers at Miami University who him and his wife, Lynn Myers, had their kids in the zoo camp down here. And so they were coming down and we're at the Red Panda exhibit actually. And they saw school groups coming by. I don't know if you guys have heard this story. School groups coming by and just all these children so excited to see these red pandas. And they were like, what if we actually sort of decentralized a graduate program so that you could have your classes here? And they actually, I think, the legend has it, they went and met with, I think, Thane Maynard that day, and were able to get an initial conversation. And he always, the way he tells the story, is that he thought this was going to be like a multi-year workup thing. And then sure enough, like Chris Myers from Miami came back within a few months and was like, let's do that, we're ready. So
that's
so
awesome.
It happened quickly and organically, I guess. That's amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about the program and how it's changed over time?
Sure. So now we're the largest graduate program at Miami University, and we have 10 zoos and botanical gardens across the country, not just Cincinnati Zoo that we work with. So it's really just grown over the last 10, 15 years or so. And we also have another program called the Global Field Program. We have 16 international field courses we run. I teach a course in India on sort of spiritual ecology tied to Hinduism and sacred groves in India.
Wow.
So these are very sort of, I would say, interdisciplinary courses. It's conservation science for sure, but also how we engage and communicate with humans and really make a difference through that. So now it's a we have probably about 750 graduate students in the program at this point. So it's a lot to manage, but it's a super exciting program to be a part of.
Yeah, it sounds like a really fun program, and I'm always curious, like, what are the typical types of students, and any of you can answer this, that are looking for this program, like, or how do they find it? What do you think they're after when they start this program? Maybe Emma or Mark could answer this, or Cassie, I don't know if you talk to people, but, or if there's somebody listening that's like currently getting their bachelor's and they want to get their master's, like what kind of people typically would benefit from this?
I think a lot of people. This is probably Cassie's answer too, but I am a person who's probably not a traditional Dragonfly student. I had been running restaurants for 5 years before I pursued the program, and I did a lot of initial conversations to get a sense of like, is this a fit? Because there's a teaching track, so I feel like there's a lot of teachers that are drawn to it. There are a lot of people in the zoological sciences and in biology that are drawn to it. A former creative writing major who has been working in restaurants for 8 years was not like a normal fit.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I want to hear how this happened.
But it is like the program, advertises, and then the conversations seem to back up the fact that it's giving you an opportunity to explore sustainability, conservation, placemaking, storytelling from wherever you are or are working.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So if you were in the restaurant industry before, how did you hear about the program? Like, I feel like it kind of flies under
I
the
know,
radar
and I'm like, I don't know if this is jumping the gun, but I want to know what you're doing now. How did this help you? What are you doing?
I realized that I'd actually known someone who'd been very involved in running the program for a decade before I even was like, should I do that? So she was obviously a first call. But yeah, I realized I'm on the board at Imago. Imago's a nature center in Price Hill. That was my first job after my undergrad. And so a lot of people that I was in kind of this like nature and environmental world in Cincinnati had actually gone through it, so I had some reference points. And I think in terms of looking at the point in my life where I found it, I was looking for continuing education. I was looking for master's programs that would kind of help me move towards a sustainability career, but that were okay with my creative writing background. And, the Project Dragonfly is a master's of arts in biology, so it's a little bit more flexible and inclusive, and it felt like a backdoor into the sciences for me.
Very cool.
That's awesome. And Mark, you're someone who longtime listeners of the podcast will recognize. You've been on, we were talking about it before. I can't remember if you were on 1, 2, 3 episodes, how many, but you've been on the podcast before.
Yeah,
so.
Came to talk about our bat-eared foxes
Yeah.
a couple years ago and brought our, at that point, our new litter of skunks that had just been born as additional guests.
Yeah, very memorable podcast for me and Jenna. It was probably our worst podcast we've ever done because we were distracted the whole time. But you are obviously a keeper here at the zoo. So what drew you to the program?
Yeah, so I was working in New Orleans, living in New Orleans before I moved to Cincinnati. Was affiliated with the zoo there. And was kind of looking for the next step in my animal career. So I have a biology undergraduate degree, and am, I guess, more of the traditional science route candidate for this program. But one of the things that really attracted me to Project Dragonfly and the AIP specifically was that it had that level of flexibility. So you were able to look at a theme to the graduate work rather than focusing only on one very specific project for the length of time. So kind of echoing what Emma was saying, that it gave a lot more flexibility and allowed you to really pursue a way to make it your own.
And you were already a full-time keeper or working to become a full-time keeper when you started the program, right?
I moved to Cincinnati specifically for the graduate program.
Oh, I didn't know. How did I not know that? Okay.
Yeah, and then at that point was when I started working, volunteering with the Africa department here, and then eventually working in our Wild Encounters team for a couple of seasons. I worked with our cat ambassador program for a number of years, and then eventually made my way to a full-time permanent position with our animal ambassador team now.
So you were getting your master's before you were a full-time keeper, and I had no idea. I don't know why. I thought it was more recent than that, and this is a whole nother, I can talk to you privately about that, but I'm totally interested. But you didn't necessarily need to move here, right? Because it's all online and across the country, or did you need to back then? Can anyone join, I guess, is the
Yeah,
question.
we for the AIP program, when we met for class, it was in person, physically at the zoo one Saturday a month.
Okay.
For the semester. So in my particular cohort of students, we did have one of our one of my colleagues was living in Florida, and she would just drive up for the class day and then turn around and drive back home.
Respect. That's dedication.
Yeah, so it's not strictly necessary to be on site. For me and the route that my theme was going made more sense to be physically in Cincinnati, and then that, my career pathway kind of developed around that.
That's so interesting. But Kevin, you mentioned now there are 10 zoos involved. So people can probably find a zoo closer to them than Florida to Cincinnati.
Well, we now have Jacksonville Zoo and Botanical Garden in the program, so that may have not been the friends there. All that drive, yeah.
That's fantastic. And Cassie, so you're on the zoo side of things. So what role exactly do you play? Like, where does your role fit into this partnership?
Yes, thank you. That is a great question because I feel like people are often asking that, or they're wondering it and not asking it. But that's a great point. So as you mentioned, I'm the graduate program manager, which sort of, I view myself as a bridge between the zoo and the university a little bit. I help connect the students to the professors at the university. I help the university understand and connect to the zoo side a little bit. And I just want to say I love both Emma and Mark's answers about being students and like their background, because I think a lot of people feel non-traditional, and so I think that speaks to like the world of Project Dragonfly is like everyone is slightly non-traditional, and so it makes everything a little traditional.
That's what binds people together,
Exactly, right? Yeah. So I help set up the in-person zoo days that Mark was talking about, and just like keeping things running on our side. So I'm zoo based, and like that's where my work is mostly focused, but kind of just helping keep their being involved in the online portions, being involved in the in-person versions, leading some of the in-person stuff, but we have some awesome community facilitators that help with that as well, and keepers, thank you Mark, who help with that as well. So it's just coordinating the team, helping coordinate the teams on both sides.
Did you go through the program too?
I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, I had started to hear about Project Dragonfly, just like being in the zoo world. I feel like you hear people who've gone through either GFP or AIP more and more. And so I had reached out to the team originally to teach, asking Kevin and them if I could teach for the program. And then a team member here at the zoo got promoted, woohoo! And so her job became open, so it was a much more like full-time position and being at the zoo, which is what I wanted to do after my own graduate school career. And so I was excited to be in a zoo space.
Perfect. Yeah. Sounds like it really worked out.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned a couple of these different programs, the GFP versus the AIP. Would you talk a little bit about what each of those is? Like, what do those terms mean? Yeah. And what's the differences between those programs?
Yes, absolutely. We love acronyms in Dragonfly. I feel like in the zoo world, too.
Zoo world in general,
we love acronyms. So the Advanced Inquiry Program, or AIP, is the one that I manage here at the zoo, and that both Emma and Mark went through. And that's the one where we definitely have online portions, but there's always those in-person days at the zoo that Mark was talking about. So there's a regular, for us, once monthly, but if you're looking at other AIP sites, it might be different. But for us, once a month, in person, all together at the zoo. For GFP, or the Global Field Program, that's the one I think you're referencing, that's like all online. You could live anywhere in the country, in the world.
But you have to be willing to travel internationally in the summers for 10 days to these incredible biodiversity hotspots that we go to. So you have 10 days of this traveling around and seeing conservation in those locations, like I mentioned earlier, India or Belize, Baja. Kenya, yeah.
Twist my arm. Okay, so I really need to know why then, like, you two chose AIP versus GFP. Like, who wouldn't want to travel? Why? Like, what are the main differences in the two? Or just tell us a little bit more about AIP if that's easier, since we're focusing on that today. Like, how did the program
So I think, I would love to hear you guys' answers actually on that. But I think internationalist travel is great, but acting locally is really important too. And being close to your community and like being able to connect with other people in the Cincinnati region who are making a difference is worth so much. And the other thing is with the AIP, you can go on one, if you really, really want to travel, you can go on one of these, what we call Earth expeditions, and you can have that count to your 35 credits in the program. But I mean, my first job was at the Bronx Zoo. I love zoos. I see why people would choose the AIP for the networking and the local connections in city.
Okay, yeah, that's, I guess, for people listening who really have, because I have no idea and I hear about it quite often, but like, I guess when you graduate with this master's, what is it that you get from the program, or what have you gotten from the program, or what would somebody, you know, you mentioned it's networking and community based and you can meet people, and like, what were you two looking for to get out of this?
I was looking to gain skill, so there was a lot of skill building for me, research skills, science writing skills, data analytics skills, data organizing, some stats. So a lot of skills, like just harder skills that I didn't have, but knowing that I wanted to keep moving towards sustainability work, thought would be really beneficial. And then to Kevin's point, doing it in place was really important, because I knew as I got familiar enough with the program that I knew I was going to be using either my experience running the restaurant group that I do, or with the nonprofit that I'm on the board of. Like, I knew I was going to use a place that is local, and it just made sense to kind of stay planted here.
Okay.
And you can still do an Earth expedition as an alum, so I'm keeping that in my mind.
Yeah, I guess it's just like we really don't know even the basics, so you're actually like learning a lot of different skills throughout this, and it's not necessarily all a conservation research project. You're learning data skills and all sorts of things. I had no idea that were involved.
Yeah, for me, being able to, because this was, entering into the program was going to be such a significant life change, and I was planning on making that move anyway, that the AIP offered me like a little bit more of a landing spot. In a way, so knowing that I wanted to continue pursuing a career working at a zoo, it made sense to have that partnership kind of built in with this program. I didn't have initially a really strong idea of what the focus was going to be, but through having that network that was created by being on grounds and meeting people through that, it really helped to kind of shape the direction that my work took.
And as each of you are in the program, what is it? You say you spend some days at the zoo. Like, what does your typical day in the program look like? Like, how many hours are you like in class, or how many hours are you online, and then how often are you at the zoo? And what do those zoo day look like? Like, is the zoo day a good time, or is it like, oh man, this is going to be a drag. We got to go collect all this data across the zoo. This is going to be brutal.
Zoo days are a blast. There's always a behind the scenes. Yeah, no, it was the only time you got to interact with your classmates. I found, especially because, you know, we're doing a lot of this work online, you're reviewing and commenting on your peers' work regularly throughout the semester. It's really nice to develop those relationships in person too. So I liked that aspect of zoo days. And then we got really cool experiences being at the zoo. I think Mark actually came to one of my classes and taught me how to train my classmates with a clicker.
Yeah, I would say the interpersonal connection from the zoo days was something that carries through. One component of the AIP is participation in the Barrows Lecture Series that the zoo does each spring. And with friends that I made in the cohort during zoo days, we've carried that tradition on now, where we plan to go to all of the Barrows lectures together, and it's a chance for us to meet up and have dinner and check in on how everybody's doing, as well as still kind of participating in that learning atmosphere. So I've made lifelong friends that have like come to my wedding and really important milestones from being able to have that in-person connection during the zoo days too.
And it's cool because we have all these different zoos in there, each different, and we also have the Missouri Botanical Garden, so we have to mention that in St. Louis. But all have their different specialties when it comes to animals and plants and conservation science activities that are happening. So what we're calling zoo days, these in-person days, they just make that come alive. So you're getting to see that firsthand. It's not just like, yeah, you could just visit the zoo, right, and wander through, and you might pick up this or that. But like seeing it with the people that are running it and living it day to day is just a different experience.
Can I ask what your individual like projects were? Yeah, will you tell us about them?
Yeah. My master plan was about building out sustainability initiatives in a restaurant setting. So it was exploring kind of what are the ways in which a restaurant can be more sustainable. And so it got to involve, there was a lot of refrigeration work. I did my whole technology project on refrigeration and monitoring refrigeration, making it more sustainable. There was obviously a lot of sourcing work. And then honestly, the most surprising and most impactful part of one of the last courses I took was the human dimensions of conservation. And so in that one, I did a lot of interaction with both the staff and the guests in a restaurant to understand what is the communication atmosphere in this like, how much do people care about the quality of the food or the treatment of the employees or the food chain in general, and what is the best way to kind of promote that message and get that through.
That's really awesome. I mean, I think of the zoo and I don't think of restaurants, but I think of sustainability, and I love that you were able to like put it all together. Mm-hmm. And did you end up making changes in your restaurants that are making a huge difference?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Yeah, we got B Corp certified at the beginning of 2023, and
Congrats.
that was kind of a project I was working alongside doing the AIP program. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so fantastic. Kudos to you, because like,
Thank you.
as someone who waited tables through college and even after college, there is so much waste in the restaurant industry. That was one of the first things that jumped out to me when I was like, this is insane, the amount of stuff that we throw away. So I'm love to hear that there's people out there fighting that fight. Like, that's great.
Definitely.
Yeah, and just for an overview, Emma mentioned the term master plan, which is sort of the umbrella that all of your work falls under. So as students in the program, we are given the opportunity to really tailor every project that we undertake and every investigation to fit what it is that we want to do. So there's coursework that has particular themes, but each of our projects we design and execute to fit sort of that overall master plan. And so the theme of my master plan was highlighting the importance of zoos and aquariums as institutions of conservation and learning. And then there was also sort of a side shoot to that was looking at fundamental differences between wild and domestic animals, was my other little component of that.
See, and that's again interesting that they're so different, but you took, I'm guessing, similar courses. How much, like, are they all the same? Does every student take the same course or same courses? Mm-hmm. Wow, that's really incredible. You can still get everything you need out of that.
Yeah.
So.
And it was one of the best parts about doing it was the cohorts that were full of just such diverse interests and ideas, because like we would work with each other on our projects, and so Mark and I could have been having conversations about how to accomplish this project while having totally different projects that we were working on, but the through lines were there, whether it was focusing on the use of technology in conservation or the connecting to humans in conservation. Like you follow the through lines, but the master plan kind of lens lets you just say, like, what do I want to get from this subject matter? What am I interested in digging into more?
That's amazing. So Mark, did you learn anything like that stands out to in your head right now through the program about like the wild or domestic or that sort of?
Yeah, it was really interesting. So each of the projects that I did somehow factored into that. And there was an entirely across the board spanning some. One of the projects I did was looking at plant blindness, which is like the ability to like correctly identify plants around you. And I did a survey of guests on grounds, whether they could identify a series of plants that I had printed out on flashcards. And then the follow-up component to that was half of the plants that were being identified had some sort of like toxic or harmful property to them. And so it was looking at like whether or not people were able to differentiate that in things that are like fairly common, daffodils, things like that. And so that factored into the component of like the importance of our zoo and botanical garden being a source for the information that could then be shared in those in those situations?
I would have failed.
I know. I'm glad I didn't have that pop quiz. That's awesome, though. Kevin, from your perspective, like, I'm sure you're, like you mentioned, you're working with people from different zoos, different programs across the country. What do you find are, like, the biggest challenges of your role?
Yeah, I think, well, from Miami University's perspective, just this unique program with all these partnerships and just keeping it going from a distance. Like when Cincinnati's our closest location, I love being able to just drive down here and be a part of so many things. We have Dragonfly Day at the zoo coming up in December. It's after our graduation event at Miami University. And the neat thing about that graduation is that it's often the first time students in this program have been on campus at Miami, right? Because this is really designed for working professionals who can keep going, keep working, do this program part-time wherever they are, and then they're just like, you know what? I want to fly out and see this campus that I'm getting this degree from. So very special. I think it's, besides the logistics of trying to make it work in different states and with all different legal things we got to do, it's been just a pleasure overall, because it's like you see this wide-reaching impact. Like you can connect a rhino keeper in San Diego at the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance with someone working at Bronx Zoo who they would never meet except for this program. They can like share best practices. So there's a lot of like co-inspiration that happens as a result.
That's great. Did you have any challenges or things that stood out to you that did make it a little trickier?
I mean, at a base level, this is graduate work.
Yeah.
Like it's not a walk in the park.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's not.
It sounds intimidating to me.
Yeah,
to
it's
be honest.
not.
I don't even know how to ask questions because I don't understand people that get their master's degrees.
Yeah.
To Kevin's point and kind of to your earlier question, it is you're working full time while also doing this. So like the day in the life, it's like mostly I'm doing my day, right? I am going to work. I had a young child towards the end of it. And then like a few nights a week, I'm going to stay up late and do research and do homework. And then some weekends we'll be on site, and some weekends I'll just be holed up in some office doing a lot more research and work.
Yeah, and in terms of the, you had asked kind of the question about the time commitment. There would be like weekly assignments where we were either writing something of our own or reviewing work that somebody else was doing, looking at like peer-reviewed sources that we were reading through as part of the class assigned coursework, and then on top of that, for each of the classes that you took in a given semester, you would be designing and implementing your own project around it. And so that one was kind of possibly the most variable component of this. If I was doing a project where I needed to observe a particular animal in a habitat at the zoo, then I would need to figure out what that time looked like for the sample size that I would need, versus if you were just doing like a lit review on your own that could happen anywhere. I think those were some of the components that probably changed what the time commitment looked like for
Okay,
individuals.
I'm glad you could explain that. And then Cassie, what do you think are challenges either that you've seen others come across or that you experienced just helping kind of be the liaison?
Yeah, I think these are all really good examples because I think the main challenge for a lot of students is when they come into the program, it's like, what do I do? Mm-hmm. And we as in some of us at the zoo, some people at Miami, like we're all here to support you but not tell you what to do. And for many people, that's by far one of the hardest parts is like they're coming in, some people do come in with a very clear vision. This is what I want to work on. I care about, bonobos, that's what I'm studying, end. But for most of our students, they're like, this seems interesting, I'm intrigued, I have a lot of passions, maybe I'm trying to switch careers, or maybe I'm trying to get more money at my job, or maybe I'm trying to figure out what this whole science thing is again. Because for the program, you can have a bachelor's in anything, truly. And so that first step of like, some of these people seem really cool and they know what they're doing, figuring out what they're going to focus on for their master plan is the most stressful thing I watch students go through every time.
Yeah,
and
I think that would
totally
be hard.
understand that. Yeah, it is tough.
Yeah, I definitely fell into the second group of those people where it's like, all right, I'm in the program, great. Now what?
Yeah.
Tell me how to do this. But I'm sure some people love that freedom too.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, right? Like it's kind of cool because it's like I could do anything, but it's pretty scary because it's like I could do anything,
Yeah.
and if I mess, like I don't know what to do with that. And I don't know if we explicitly mentioned, but just to like reiterate for anyone listening who's like trying to figure out what this is, it is a part-time program. So I think you hear masters, and a lot of times you think on campus, full-time, going to classes. But as Kevin mentioned, this program was designed for working professionals, for people with really busy lives. A lot of our students are teachers, like classroom teachers, but that's not exclusively the case by far anymore. It's increasingly fewer teachers, at least for us at Cincinnati. But they are people with busy, active lives. So like Emma said, they're working on weekends or in evenings or on breaks and things like that, just to clarify.
And how many years does it typically take?
Yes, great question. It's a minimum 2.5 year program,
Okay.
so you can't go faster than that just because we don't want it to take over your life. It's not supposed to be you can't be taking all the classes at once, partially because we run all of our fall classes at the same time so that everybody gets to all the levels of cohorts. So first year, second years, third years, all get to see each other on those Saturdays, which is hopefully fun. I don't know, I'm looking at because I didn't actually do it, but that way there is even more like peer-to-peer communication. You get to pick the courses. Those are called our fall like Web Plus elective basically courses, and so then you get to see everybody those Saturdays. It's not just the people in your direct class. You can get lunch if you want with other classes and things like that, but the fastest you could do it is 2.5 years, but you have up to 5 years.
Okay.
Because many students have children partway through, or they get married and they just cannot handle coursework on top of all of that, or different life events happen and they need to take a semester off, or only take one course where we suggest 2, or things like that. So they have some flexibility.
That's awesome.
That's great. Yeah, it totally sounds like flexibility is one of the strengths of the program.
Yeah.
For sure. Definitely that you're willing to work with everyone there, come and kind of meet them on their own terms. That's fantastic. I guess from like you, it's great that we have people with all different perspectives. From each of your perspectives, what advice would you have to someone who is thinking about entering the program, wants to enter this program? Like, how can they make things easier for themselves? How can they find maybe what they want to study if they have no idea kind of what they're going into it? But I guess, Emma, we'll start with you. What do you think?
And I think if there are things you're excited to do or excited to learn about, it's at least worth checking it out. The getting over the fear of figuring out a master plan like happens in the first year in the program. Like you can know that you want to study pollinators, or you can know that you want to do something in the business world. You can know a little something and know that you want to pursue this graduate level education, and Project Dragonfly will meet you there.
That's great.
Yeah, I think my biggest piece of advice is you get out of the program what you put into it. So there were definitely times where when I was doing a particular reading assignment or responding to like one of those written prompts, life happens, and realistically, like I did not have the amount of time that I wanted to put into it, and that showed in the results of those particular projects. When I was fully in and really put forth a strong effort, the results of that showed off. So I would say really invest in the time that you're putting into it, because the end results will come back tenfold.
Yeah, that is an awesome one. We always talk about you get out of it what you put into it. So I echo everything that both Emma and Mark have said. I think I'm having like a million things go through my mind right now, but because I'm like, I want to say don't overthink it, but like it's different than undergrad, right? It is a master's program, but kind of as Emma said, like the program really does meet you where you're at, so you don't, as we've alluded to, you don't have to come in with these awesome ideas. Like you've just heard people who've completely finished the program. probably didn't feel that clear cut for them until after. Like, honestly.
Yeah. Well, and I switched routes halfway through.
Right,
So.
and that's super common. Yeah, so I'm trying to balance those things of like, agreed, like if it's even a little interesting, there's something there, but don't feel like you have to step in day one and be ready to like start a research project, because part of the process and a huge part for Project Dragonfly, I think, is having the peer review and peer feedback piece and having that like development phase. You're not meant to come in and be ready to like run with it.
Yeah, and I guess I would just say realize you're not alone. I think so many people care about the environment. They want to make a difference. They feel like they're the only one. And so being a part of a community, it doesn't have to be Dragonfly, but if it's Dragonfly, that's great. It's a group of people that want to make a positive difference on this earth. And having the support of peers is so critical for that. So whatever community you can find, I would say try to find community. And the other thing is to just be brave, because you have one life. Like going to Baja and swimming with whale sharks. That is something I never thought I would do. And as the instructor of the course, I'm there at the edge of the boat about to jump in. I'm like, I have to do this. But so magical, this wonderful world we live in. There's so much to explore and to see. There's still a lot of beauty. I mean, it's not all gone, right? Like, you come to the zoo today. We were walking in here for this podcast, and we hear the lions roaring. And I'm like, this is so cool. This is in the middle of Cincinnati, and here it is, you know? So I think be brave to have those experiences and just look to connect with people.
I love that advice, and it's also something that I get reminded of recording these podcasts often is there are so many people that care, and we all have a different version of either practicing that we care or showing that we care or trying, and there are so many different careers out there, like that. You know, you might be a conservationist, or in high school you want to save the planet, or you want to save animals, but there are so many ways to do all of those things, and it could be owning restaurants and doing it sustainably, and you know, I like that there is like there's a lot of people that want to do the same thing, but in a lot of different ways it's possible. So that's really
It's
cool.
perfect, and it's a friendly reminder. Like, the world can be kind of bleak sometimes, especially seems like today's day and age. It can be negative. It is good to see those positives and good to see the beauty that still exists, and try and make sure that we're keeping that beauty around and not letting it die out. So I love to hear that. Is there a place that any listener, if they're interested in the program, is there a place where they can go to maybe find more info or do a little more research into finding out if this is for them or not?
Yeah, if you just search Project Dragonfly Miami University, you'll find our main website, and that'll give you links into both the Global Field Program we've talked about and then the Advanced Inquiry Program with Cincinnati Zoo and all our other locations across.
Yeah, and then the zoo has its own Advanced Inquiry Program specific page. If you go to the Cincinnati Zoo webpage and look up professional development, that page it'll tell you when our info sessions are, and it'll tell you a little bit more in depth about the program. You can see some fun pictures.
Great. Well, is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about today before we wrap up that we missed? No?
I don't think
That's
so.
fine. Good. So make sure we covered it all.
Good.
Well, thank you all for being here.
Yeah.
We just have one final question. What can I do? How can I be a better steward of the earth? What can I do for my home that's simple, something that could potentially help in any way?
As much as I regret to inform you, we can't all join the Project Dragonfly. That was great and fantastic. That would be.
All right. Well, I mentioned this when we were just meeting at the beginning, but just dig a hole in your backyard. So I live up near Dayton, Ohio, in Yellow Springs, and I was surprised to realize that in my clay, shady backyard, digging a hole, that mason bees were coming to it this past spring and gathering materials to make their nests. So just having a little, variation in the topography of your backyard, and I know that might be an eyesore, but you could be helping the bees.
So what size of hole? Like,
2 inches I was gonna ask that.
2 feet wide? How deep? Do you think it's specifically for people with like clay-ish soil? Clay-heavy soil?
This one was so actually I use this too because my yard floods, so I was trying to create like a little mini ephemeral pond. So it's probably like 2 or 3 feet deep and 2 or 3 feet wide, so it's kind of big.
Okay, it's a bigger hole than I was expecting.
It is bigger. But I think a smaller would work too. It's just getting to the soil horizon where there's the clay that they can access. And just try not to make your yard like perfect and
Yeah.
to the level that there's not biodiversity.
We've talked about that a lot. And so, do you know enough about mason bees for me to ask you a few questions about them?
Maybe.
Okay.
Sure.
Well,
I should.
So for
yeah.
anyone asking, okay, so mason bees need clay to make their nest, and you mentioned spring. So springtime would be a good time to dig a hole. And what do they do with it, or what can you tell us about them? Why they're important, other than that they're pollinators? Like any interesting facts?
Sure, they're cavity nesters, so they're looking for holes in wood, sometimes excavated by another insect, or even like woodpeckers or things that they can utilize. But they want to make sort of galleries to give their developing larvae, their developing young, the right amount of pollen. So they sort of seal with the clay these sort of walls. That's why they're called mason bees, because they're sort of like masons. And they provision each with a ball of pollen. And then they lay an egg, the female lays an egg on that ball of pollen. And it also protects them from some pathogen spread. So if like there's a virus that gets into one, or a fungus or something, it might not kill all of the others.
Wow, that's so interesting. I mean, I kind of knew, but I didn't really know the pollen ball and all of these things. Like,
and then they emerge in reverse order. This is what's crazy. So she lays the deepest egg with the pollen, seals
I was
seals
thinking
it,
different
seals it,
eggs like
seals
next to each other. Oh, they're all like
No,
behind
they're in
each
a
other.
tunnel, and then somehow through biology and evolution, the ones last laid and built will emerge first.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just ready.
Yeah.
What?
It's crazy.
That's
I need
incredible. I
To find,
never
like,
knew
a
any of this.
documentary on mason bees. This is amazing.
Tune in next week for
Kevin's just, yeah. Do you know enough for a podcast episode on mason bees? Wow, that's awesome. So yeah, that'd be super fun to help the mason bees out. I'm not sure how much you get to observe it. Have you seen them like coming out ever, or?
Yeah, that, and so I also, and with Imago here in Cincinnati, so we did project drilling holes of different sizes in wood, and you hang up this block of wood near your house. You've maybe seen these sold in like nature centers and places. You can buy them on Amazon now, bee nesting sites. But you can just build them. And I was like, this is not going to work. And sure enough, like later, like 3 days later, it was a sunny spring day, and I saw female mason bees checking this out and starting to use it.
No
and
way.
then sealed them up. Yeah.
That's just instant
fun.
gratification too.
Yeah.
You didn't have to wait a year for this to happen. You didn't have to
It
wait 6
doesn't
months.
always happen that way.
3 days. That's
Um,
incredible.
Are they pretty common? Like,
'Cause-
would most people in Cincinnati-ish area?
Yeah, they're
see
definitely
them
here,
come?
and it all depends on the location. Like
So
anything, they
they need a
want
certain
a
habitat.
spot. They want to have blooming flowers nearby and things like that. So I think when I did that, it just was a good spot. Because I've had other times I put it up and like nothing, and then you're kind of sad. So just try different things and be persistent.
That's super cool. I'm amazed when you put something out and I'm thinking specifically of pollinators, but animals come and find it. Like for the first time ever this past spring, I planted milkweed and 1 million monarchs showed up. You know, like
Yeah.
it was not there before. How did they settle? It's just
Yeah.
incredible. And this is a little off topic, but I've heard about Imago for the very first time today and had never heard of it before. Can you just tell everyone a little bit about it? And you said you're on the board for
Yes.
Imago, and it's a nature preserve? Is that
Nature
correct?
Preserve and Environmental Education nonprofit over
Okay.
in Price Hill in Cincinnati, Ohio. Yeah, so it's 18 acres of open to the public protected forest. There's hiking trails. There's art on the trails because we solicited art from regional artists this past spring. So there's lots to look at on the trails. And then we teach summer camps, and we're also developing more and more partnerships with Cincinnati Public Schools to create outdoor education spaces on their campuses.
Very cool. There's so
Yeah.
many cool things that happen in
Yeah.
Cincinnati, and I don't know about half of them, and I'm glad to hear about more. Maybe we
Yeah.
can talk about Imago another time.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you all for being here and sharing all about the AIP program and a little bit about your lives and everything. Yeah, if you guys don't have anything else you wanted to mention, we can all dig a hole this spring.
Yeah, that's my takeaway. That's my
Drill some
Sounds morbid.
holes. I don't think I ever would have thought like, or what can I do would be dig a hole.
Dig a hole in the backyard. Dig a hole. I love it. It's something we all can do. It's true. It's true. I love it.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great week.
Yes, have a good one. Thanks to all our guests once again. Your work is very inspiring. You guys are the best. And all our listeners, thanks for tuning into another episode. Until next time.